Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Hall and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Juniper. And it's my great pleasure on behalf of the Chair of the Board of Juniper, Fred Boshar, the members of the Board, the members of the Executive, staff and volunteers of Juniper to welcome you all here this afternoon. And to thank you very much for accepting our invitation to join us on this important celebration. I'm told here that if the alarms go off or the fire alarm goes off, don't follow me, is what it says, because I will certainly lead you astray, but there will be people to guide you out of the building if that happens, which I'm sure it won't this afternoon. There's a long list of acknowledgements that we need to read. Firstly, the Premier of Western Australia, Hon Mark McGowan MLA, the Leader of the Opposition, Hon Lisa Harvey MLA, Member for North Metropolitan Region, Hon Alison Zammon, the Moderator of the Uniting Church in Western Australia, Rev Steve Francis, the General Secretary of the Uniting Church in Western Australia, Rev David de Kock, members of the Uniting Church, local congregation in particular who are with us this afternoon, the previous Juniper board chairs and board directors who are able to join us, the former founding CEO of Juniper, Vaughan Harding, OAM, who retired last year after nearly 20 years of service in the role of CEO and who strongly led Juniper's most recent growth strategy. And of course, he's joined this afternoon by his wife, Lynn. Previous executive and other staff and volunteers who have joined us today, in particular Mick Burke, who led this project in his former role as Executive Manager, Assets and Planning. Many of the residents in whose home we gather this afternoon and their families and carers. Our residential manager of this service, Marie Earls, and her staff and volunteers. And I'm told that Marie's mum is also here this afternoon, so that is fantastic. The project builder for this facility, Firm Constructions, the project architect, T&Z, all of the specialist services and consultants associated with the construction of this facility. And last but not least, some of our new neighbours here in Karrinyup. We have received a large number of apologies, and I'm not going to read these because we'll be here all afternoon. But we do want to recognise those people that have apologised who are unable to be with us. To open our proceedings this afternoon, I'd like to introduce the Moorditch mob from Wesley College, who will perform for us an acknowledgement of country, and I welcome Derek Nanup, who will lead the performance.
Kaya. Kaya means hello in my language, the traditional language of this place we meet on today. I'm going to start off with an acknowledgement to country. Usually we start off an important event or meeting with a welcome to country, but as I'm not an elder yet, I can do an acknowledgement. Kaya nyan karish nunga mort nyan kwel Derek Nanup nyan jerpa nunuk jenani nunuk an kwabardak yoga nunuk an yoka mama nunuk an murit kolanga ni nyan wankan. Wanjunida nunga buja wanjunida wajak buja. So I'd like to acknowledge my old people, in particular my Wajak Noongar people. My name is Derek Nanup. I'm happy to see you all here, beautiful women, strong men, solid children. Welcome to Noongar country, welcome to Wajak country. I'd also like to extend my acknowledgement to this instrument over here. Do we all know what this here is, right? Yeah. So this here is the didgeridoo, but the traditional name for the didgeridoo is the yirdaki. So my old people have told me that we must acknowledge this instrument as it is not from our country down in the southwest, but originated in the top end in Arnhem Land and it belongs to the Yolngu people. There are over 500 different countries within Aboriginal Australia and with their different laws and customs and values. I'd also just want to do one more acknowledgement. I just want to acknowledge Juniper and the old people in the room as well. Our culture, we had governance, and on top of that governance and the hierarchy was the elders. So I just want to acknowledge you elders and thank you. You guys have a lot of wisdom and knowledge before my time and before a lot of the people in the room. So thank you. Going to start off with the Wirranyumbi or the spirit dance. Brrr. Yokai. Yala yokai. Brrr. Brrr. Our second dance is going to be a waich and a yonga. The waich is the emu and the yonga is the kangaroo. We do these dances to pay respects to the animal. A lot of our families had individual totems and family totems, and they were part of our biggest food source. So we do these dances to pay respects to the animals. Yonga nyarning yonga bujada gorban nyarning yonga bujada 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 waiting boja nyarning nyarning. We're just going to finish off with a nyambi. A nyambi is a celebration dance, rock and roll, our Dougie and Nene for the younger fellows in the back. But yeah, this is a chance for us to show off our moves, and back in the day, the best dancer got the ladies. So yeah. So if you can, please clap along with the Carlies. The Carly in my language is boomerangs. I'm just going to finish up by saying we're going to be like the kangaroo and the emu, the Waicha and the Yonga. They're the only two animals that can always move forward, so I want us to move forward as a nation together, not just as a people, but together, always moving forward like that kangaroo and emu. Borda, Bordawan, Bordawan, Jinang. Thank you.
Can we just put our hands together again for the Wesley boys? Thank you so much. I think it's very significant that we have young people acknowledging and welcoming us to this facility for our older generation, and the respect that they pay to the elders in their community as well as to the broader community, which is fantastic. At Juniper, our vision is a good life for all our people. And today is a celebration of two significant milestones in realising that vision. We celebrate 70 years of caring for older people living in Western Australia, both as an agency of the Uniting Church here in Western Australia and as a member of the larger Uniting Care network across the country. Since humble beginnings in 1949, we have developed as one of WA's most forward-thinking, mission-based providers of high-quality care and accommodation for older people. We build community and we build capacity, and we are creating jobs throughout Western Australia. We have one of the largest geographical care footprints in the nation. We have invested significantly in caring for older people in Western Australia and the Western Australian economy itself. Since June last year, before my time, and in line with our previous growth strategy, we have opened 4 new residential care services, providing more than 350 additional residential aged care beds across the state, from Kununurra in the north to Albany in the south. We have invested over $105 million in capital costs, comprising construction and fit-out across these 4 new services. Of that $105 million investment, all but $11 million has been self-funded by Juniper. Our numerous partnerships have played a large part in helping to sustain Western Australia's design and construction industry, particularly in the regions. We have employed hundreds of contractors and subcontractors to deliver these projects. And wherever possible, we have sourced local labour, local products and local services. And this has resulted in very significant investment in local and the West Australian economies. We are a major metropolitan and regional employer with around 1,800 staff and over 500 volunteers statewide. Our new services have enabled the creation of 250 new full-time equivalent jobs in Western Australia. I acknowledge and pay tribute to the inspirational dedication and commitment of all of our staff and volunteers, both past and present. To commission 4 new facilities in just over 12 months is unprecedented and an enormous achievement on top of your normal daily workloads, and we thank you. Moving forward, Juniper and the aged care sector cannot do it alone. Among other things, we require from government recognition of the enormity of our ageing population and the supports and services that older people in our communities require. We require greater access to land. We need quicker and simpler development approvals and processes. And we need support for the expansion of Juniper's affordable housing for older people, a major strategic focus for Juniper into the future. This new facility here, Chrystal Halliday, builds on many years of care from this site. Chrystal Halliday was a teacher, a tireless church volunteer, and a worker for social change. This new facility and the expanded service on this site continue to honour her name and that spirit, including a commitment to ensure that there is access to this service for all older people, no matter what their means. Juniper has invested $34 million in the construction and fit out of this building. It will importantly be a home for 120 older people, 40 of whom will live with dementia. I'd like to hand over to Marie Earls, who is our residential manager, to say a few words about this service and the amazing commitment and dedication of our staff and volunteers. Marie.
Wow, it's lovely to see so many people here helping us all celebrate the two things, Juniper's 70th anniversary and also the commissioning and opening of Chrystal Halliday. I've been a registered nurse for over 30 years. I can see my mum crying there, don't cry mum. And I've worked in lots of different areas of nursing, but one thing I've always wanted to do was to lead a new team and open a new aged care facility. And a few months ago, I was very, very honoured to be told by Philippa and Peter, area managers who interviewed me, that I had the position. Then I had the task of recruiting staff, and the biggest thing I was looking for was people's commitment to this huge project, and it's been an amazing journey. Every staff member that I interviewed who was successful all said one thing, and that was that they wanted to be part of the new team. So that is in itself shows commitment of the staff that we have here at Chrystal Halliday. It's been an amazing journey. The 22nd of July is when we had 40 staff turning up, and on the same day we had a truck which had 13 pallets of equipment and supplies. So the staff were training and they were so enthusiastic about being on board with helping, and it's just been absolutely incredible. The biggest milestone that we had was on the 14th of August, where we welcomed our first two residents. We had Muriel, our First Lady, and Colin, our First Gentleman. We now have 13 residents, and we have more coming in each week, and all the staff are so enthusiastic, so passionate and loving it. And we look forward to lots and lots of really fantastic times. Aged care can be sad when we lose people that are dear to us, but most of the time it's happy. New friendships are formed, people enjoy their days, and the culture of care is promoting the best life for our residents. Thank you.
And Marie, thank you again, and congratulations on your appointment again. And can we acknowledge the amazing leadership that you have provided for this team, and the exemplary nature that you've gone about doing that for all of us here at Juniper. So thank you very much to you and your team. Can I introduce the moderator of the Synod of Western Australia, Rev Steve Francis, to lead us in prayer and to dedicate this service.
Thank you. I do want to acknowledge again that we meet on the land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and to pay my respects to their elders past and present and emerging. And I do want to say a big thank you to all of you who've come here today those of you who are sitting on the front row. I mean, to have the Premier here, the Leader of the Opposition, Alison Zamon, from the upper house is just fantastic. Thank you so much for sparing the time to be with us today. It's wonderful. The presbytery is represented by Des Cousins, and of course, as I look along this front row, I see some of the distinguished servants of this wonderful organisation, Juniper, Fred, who you'll hear from, and of course Vaughan Harding and his wife. So thank you too for the words that you've told us. We're just amazed that, you know, the Premier and I both have extensive notes and you just spoke off the cuff. So that's extremely impressive. So well done. It's a real privilege for me to, in a few moments, lead you in a prayer. I do want to say it's extra special for me to be here because I was a minister in this community many, many years ago, 1980. I was young, I did have long hair. It was also a different colour to what it is now. I didn't have all these wrinkles and stuff. And I was a young single man. And I found that the congregation, some of whom are here today, and thank you for putting up with my ministry all those years ago. It's amazing you're still going. But it's wonderful to see you, those of you who were there when I was here in the 80s. And I want to say thank you to Chrystal Halliday. I used to come here 3 or 4 times a week. I used to conduct a service here. I used to pray with people. Sometimes I would bury someone. And it was a great joy for me as a young man to see the care and the compassion that was shown by the Chrystal Halliday residents and by the staff. So it is a great joy to share on this special occasion. And it's 70 years we're acknowledging as well of the work of Juniper. So this is an amazing building. I'm looking forward to exploring more of it. It's a building for the 21st century. It's a building that reflects the ethos and the values of Juniper, which is of course an agency of the Uniting Church. We are in this space because we believe that God cares enormously for every single human being, and that God would want us to express dignity and value to all people, and especially to those who are moving into that last phases of life. So I'm going to pause for a moment and lead you in a prayer of dedication. Let us pray. Gracious God, may this place be a place of welcome and safety. May this place be a warm shelter from the storms of life. May this place be a space of deep connection and stability. May all who enter know the blessing of kindness, of feeling understood, and of being noticed. For all who do their work here, grant them gentle attention, patience, and power. May this community be free from fear or cynicism and despair. May we all know your peace and the hope of your promised future. God of immeasurable love, stir in us a love for each other. Use our eyes, our ears, our minds, our hands, and our feet to build a community based on love, justice, faith, hope. God, please bless these buildings and the people who come and go here. And so may the blessing of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit be upon us all, now and forevermore. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you, Steve. Fred, could I invite you as Chair of the Juniper Board, Fred Boshar, to just say a few words, please.
Thank you, Chris. I'd also like to welcome the Premier Mark McGowan, the Leader of the Opposition, Lisa Harvey, and if I'm going to miss somebody out, I'm sorry, but you see we get smaller as we go on, right? So there'll be one announcement, the next person. you know, it's interesting, the aged care industry, we talk a lot about the baby boomers and the impact. I think Vaughan was one who continually brought up to us the baby boomers would have a profound effect on how we would run aged care. Well, I'm a baby boomer. And I've come here today and I think we might have reached our nirvana in aged care. Because if it gets any better than this, we won't be able to afford it. This is just a magnificent facility. And can I just, as a baby boomer, say something? There's a great song by the Eagles called Hotel California. And you know what? I'd like to think one day when I'm 85, they're going to play that at the front as I walk in, and it goes something like this. Welcome to Hotel California. Such a lovely place, such a lovely place. Plenty of room at the Hotel California. Because that's my generation. We grew up, we had our songs. I think we changed the world. We had a great life. We were blessed on this journey. I think that probably others are going to find it harder because we've actually pillaged the country. We've lived our life to the fullest. Anyhow, it's another story. This afternoon I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of how we got here and what it meant. So Juniper's story starts in 1949. Oh, by the way, I want to recognise two more institutions that have their 70th anniversary. Would you believe ASIO and the People's Republic of China? Now, how did I come about with that wonderful information? Well, you know, it's like when you say to people, look for a red car on the road, and suddenly you see red cars. Well, I'm thinking about the 70th anniversary, and these things keep on coming up on the radio, so I just mention it. But what we need to recognise is we had the 1930s depression, we had 6 years of the Second World War, and the country and the world was devastated, and it was ripe for movements like the People's Republic of China, and for ASIO. ASIO came about because we were worried about the Russians at that stage. But it also brought something else up. We were not looking after our people. There were no resources, there was nothing that we could do. And one of the victims of the conflicts obviously were our elderly women. They were left homeless. So in their place, the church came forward. And so the founders, the care of our founders was a response to the desperate need of older people who were unable to provide for themselves in the decade following the Second World War. Motivated by concerns for the welfare of the community, the Methodists, Congregationists and Presbyterian churches, and some of you old folk probably relate to that very well these days and probably sometimes see yourself as one of those, naturally moved towards meeting the accommodation and other needs of older people in the community. The opening of Hardy Lodge in Mount Lawley addressed that need when the service accepted 12 elderly ladies in 1949. This was the first demonstration of what ultimately became the foundation of Juniper's mission. The serving to others was essential to our founders' identity as Christians. The formation of the Uniting Church in 1977 was a tangible expression of the Church's intention to serve others in unity. Over subsequent years, the Church's multiple aged care bodies continued to respond to rapid change across society, yet change is never easy. To meet demand from an ageing population, the Church resolved to combine its resources. In 1992, its 10 aged care operations joined as one organisation named Uniting Church Homes. One can reflect that this change was highly charged and difficult. So we thank retired Chief Executive Mr. Vaughan Harding and others who may be here today for their steadfastness and dedication during this process. And I've only given one little sentence of it. It was a nightmare bringing together 10 organisations, 3 denominations to actually get them to agree. And it's not because they didn't want to. These were people who were dedicated volunteers that had given their lives to actually being engaged in aged care, and we were asking them to give that up. So it was a battle, and I think, looking around today, I think it was a worthwhile battle to win. Looking to the future and recognising the need for further change to meet society's aspirations and outlook, the organisation rebranded as Juniper, a Uniting Church community, in August 2012. After more than a decade on the board of Juniper, I've come to appreciate the integrity and passion expressed by the people at Juniper, and I think this is best demonstrated by our engagement with aged care in the Kimberley region. In 2014, Frontier Services, an agency of the Uniting Church, transferred its Kimberley operation at Kununurra, Wyndham and Derby into the Juniper fold. Juniper's awareness of the challenges of remote Australia is growing. Things like small population, remote locations, high costs, harsh climate all present challenges to city-based services like ours. However, there is a generic need of people as they age. Things like affordable and accessible housing, appropriate support at home, connection with community, respect, security and safety, autonomy, self-determination and compassionate care staff. The people of the Kimberley share these same needs, but we are also aware of the enduring and deeply spiritual connection to country and the importance of relationships and culture, particularly in the Aboriginal people, and recognise our services up there, the majority are Aboriginal people, and the need to take account of these things in providing services. There are many people I've come to know and work with. I'd especially like to thank the former CEO Vaughan Harding, our current CEO Chris Hall. Both men have demonstrated extraordinary mission-focused leadership. To my fellow board members, past and present, thank you. But most of all, the dedicated staff and volunteers that are key to achieving success. Marie, I think the thing that I've recognised in this, we can build these wonderful buildings and we can provide all the services in the world. Unless we have dedicated and caring staff, they mean nothing. And in the last 5 years, I've had the opportunity to go around and meet some of our managers and people. I'd have to say without a moment's doubt, these are compassionate people. They cry when the people eventually pass away. They care for them. They're part of the family. And I think that's what makes Juniper, and I've no doubt many other aged providers, so special. Presently, we are hard at work across many fronts in our effort to deliver on strategic goal to be WA's preferred provider and employer of choice in aged care. Aged care is transforming, particularly in preparation for the baby boomer generation, large numbers of whom have already begun retirement. To meet this demand, we continue to provide more retirement living options and are directing our efforts to ensuring our existing retirement villages are a viable and attractive choice in the future. In the home care space, we're responding to increasing competition, and we're well placed to continue to meet the new quality standards for aged care that came into effect on the 1st of July. Moving forward, we look to expand our current activities in meeting the need for affordable housing for older people. And I think this is one of the mission things that Juniper's always had at its heart, and I think we spoke about it to the Premier also, that organisations like ours have a definite charter where we provide housing and these sort of facilities for people who can't meet the bonds, who are on a pension, that have worked all their lives, and we can step into that space and provide them with housing and care at this sort of level. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of, in my time working with Juniper, I've seen this expressed time and time again. We are at the moment working to respond to the looming homelessness crisis in which older women are one of the most risk groups. Future independent living at villages will be developed to meet this need. And I'd just like to round up and say, anniversary celebrations provide an opportunity to reflect on what has changed and what remains constant with the services established in 1949. The desire of the Methodists who founded Hardy Lodge continues to be honoured, to provide services for those without the means to fund their own care. Juniper remains a church agency and a charity, running as a not-for-profit service provided within a complex and highly regulated professional sector. As in the beginning, and despite tighter finances, Juniper continues to target people who do not have choices. For Juniper, remaining faithful to our missions continues to underpin our operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much for bringing forward the history to make it contemporary and understood. What I didn't say in introducing Fred is that he's on the last legs of his time as chair of the board. And on the 26th of this month, when we have the official opening of our new facility at Albany, that will be his last official engagement for Juniper. So we take the opportunity this afternoon to also acknowledge and recognise your 13 years of outstanding service to Juniper. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark McGowan was elected Premier on the 11th of March 2017. In addition to his role as Premier, he holds the Public Sector Management, State Development, Jobs and Trade, and Federal and State Relations portfolios. A little bit of a busy schedule there, Premier. I take pleasure in introducing the Honourable Mark McGowan MLA, Premier of Western Australia, and ask you to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Can I also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, their elders past and present. Thank the lads for their welcome. Can I acknowledge all the distinguished guests today, in particular the Opposition Leader Lisa Harvey and local MP, Alison Zamon, Upper House MP and also local MP, all the distinguished guests from Juniper and the Uniting Church, in particular Rev Steve, Chris and Fred, and thank you for your words of wisdom as someone who's a baby boomer. Thank you. From someone who's Generation X. It looks like Generation X are going to carry the baby boomers. And also Marie, thank you for your wonderful words, and congratulations to Marie's mum on having such a wonderful public speaker and daughter who's doing such great things. And to everyone who's here today, both residents, family members and staff here at this marvellous facility. Great to see you all. My role here today is to open this terrific new facility, and it's a pleasure and a privilege for me to do so. I took a tour earlier upstairs and had a good look around. It is just simply magnificent, and the facilities are just extraordinary. The views are $1 million, to be honest, and some of the rooms are just beautiful. The common areas are fantastic. The social opportunities terrific. The catering will be just wonderful, and it's a credit to everyone who's made it happen, in particular Juniper, but also the builders and the designers. So thank you so much for the work that you've done. It's just spectacular. I would like to thank Juniper in particular for a few things. One is the care you show for older West Australians, older Australians, is to be commended. You know, we all have parents, and the care of our ageing parents or our grandparents is very important to every one of us. And to have a community and a society in which organisations like Juniper and the staff that you employ devote your lives to caring for people who age, who, you know, as we get older, we know things don't go as well as we might have when we were younger. It's just terrific that this organisation does this work, and indeed doesn't do this work here in Perth, but does it all over Western Australia. And I heard you before saying from the Kimberley down to Albany and everywhere in between, these sorts of facilities are being constructed. It is terrific, and particularly making sure people in the regions have these opportunities as well. It's just a really kind, decent, compassionate Australian thing to do, and thank you for doing it. Secondly, to Juniper, in building this, obviously, whenever you do something like this, you take a risk. You have to go through all sorts of planning and red tape and meetings and committee meetings and board meetings and banks and whoever else it is to make it happen. It must have been quite an extraordinary effort to achieve this. Negotiations and working with neighbours, just a great thing. And for the people of this area, of course, living near here, you have a great place in which to place mum and dad, and which hopefully you can walk and visit. And that's a great addition to the local community. I'm sure the local residents will have, in having this enhanced facility here, have somewhere that they can visit regularly. Their parents and family members, and that's an added benefit as well. Our population is ageing, as Chris said. We are living longer. We are living healthier, actually, during the course of our lives, but we live longer, and obviously, as you get older, you might need care. And so these facilities, both this one and others across the state, will provide for that support for people, for West Australians as we age. And that's an important addition. I look forward to working with Juniper and other organisations like this to provide that support. Chris mentioned making land available, and that's one of the things we are trying very hard to do, make land available for facilities like this, cut through the red tape and the planning to make land available. And from memory, we have around 35 sites that we're looking at making available across Western Australia, or have made available across the state, for organisations like Juniper to put these facilities on. So working cooperatively, government at all levels, local, state, federal, working with not-for-profits is the sorts of things that we all know we should do, and we should make it happen. Just lastly, can I congratulate, and someone did before, but in particular the staff who work here and work in aged care across the state, unsung heroes of our community, aged care staff, unsung heroes. You work with older people with a smile on your face, with compassion in your hearts, with kindness in your voice. It's just a fantastic thing. And to sit and listen to someone and hear their stories, and the stories are often, I must say, very interesting, because the generations who now will live in places like this experienced the Great Depression and the Second World War, and the conflicts of the 20th century, and the hardships and everything that went with it, and raised families and worked in industries, some of which don't exist anymore. They're interesting stories, but obviously the staff work with and provide comfort and support to these people. I'd like to especially thank the staff who've done it. I've met a few here today, great people. The ones I met, by the way, were drinking lots of champagne, so keep an eye on them on the drive home. It is a great group of people, and I'd like to thank you for the work that you do as well. And now, and by the way, happy 70th birthday as well to Juniper, a terrific anniversary. I'd now like to declare this important facility open. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've got Freedom.